Yo, what's going on, you guys? Josh Miller here, and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am a filmmaker based in Utah, and I work a variety of different positions depending on the gig. When it comes to shooting interviews, it is extremely important that you spend just as much time making it look good as you do with your B-roll. It's super easy to give lots of attention and love to the B-roll because that's where you get those sexy, cinematic shots. But what a lot of people don't realize is technically the interviews are the A-roll and are the base and foundation to the entire video. B-roll is exactly that. It's the B footage. It's secondary, and its job is to support the A-roll. Not saying that B-roll isn't important, because obviously it is. That's what helps tell the story visually. So today we are talking about how to shoot cinematic interviews. As with any project, I always want to know what is the mood and style that we're going for. Obviously, I don't want to do something low-key if the client wants a high-key aesthetic. So that needs to be established first. Today, we are going to do a more moody, low-key interview, but I'll make a video in the future on how to do a bright and high-key interview setup. All right, so getting right into it. After spending some time figuring out where I want my subject to sit and what I want the background to be, the first light I'm going to set up is my key light. I always put this light on the far side of the subject's face. This is going to create some nice highlights and shadows to give a three-dimensional look. Typically, you want to always create a nice soft light on the subject's face because there really isn't going to be that many times in an interview setting where you want a hard light on your subject. As always, the formula for soft light is how big is the source and how close is the source. I'm gonna be using my Aputure 120D with a softbox on the front of it, and so I'm going to wanna get the light pretty close to create that soft light because it's not that big of a light. All right, so the next light I'm going to set up is a hair light or a backlight, and I'm gonna put that directly opposite of my key light. I'm going to use this to just give a nice little edge on my subject to separate them from the background. I like to use a softer source just so it's not so hard of a light, but sometimes I use a hard light depending on what the light is being motivated by. For interviews, your light really doesn't need to be motivated, at least in my opinion, but if you are wanting to do a cinematic image, then part of cinematic lighting is having motivated light. So for this setup, I'm going to put a lamp in the background with my Aputure B7C bulb and then use a Aputure MC to actually get that light onto my subject to fake that light as if it was coming from the lamp. When it comes to making an image cinematic, it's really about lighting spaces and not faces. I know I've been super guilty of this and just focus all my time and attention on the face and not give any love to the background. But the face is extremely important, and that is what people are going to be looking at. For this setup, I'm going to use my 4-foot RGB Quasar tube and place that back behind the desk on the ground facing up. And I can either keep it clean and go with just like a daylight or a tungsten light, or I can add some color and jazz it up a little bit. Last is deciding whether I want to use some fill or negative fill on the near side of the face. I hardly ever actually use fill because I do want that contrast, so I will usually just leave it as it is. But if I want some more contrast, I'm going to use negative fill to deepen those shadows. Lastly, if I'm going to use two cameras for the setup, I will put my B cam on the near side of the face so that I am shooting into the shadows. This again will create that dimension, and also it follows the 180-degree rule, which is you never want to cross the camera over the imaginary line because it will disorient the viewers and it looks like the subject is looking back and forth. All right, real quick, I want to show you what this can look like with practically no lights. I'm just going to flip everything to the other side and use the window in my office as my key light. I'm going to put a lamp in the background with just a normal bulb and then use some negative fill to create that contrast that I like. This is where being versed in both shooting and coloring can come in super handy because I know that I can I know how much I can push my footage and maneuver things around to create some more contrast and mood in my image. All right, so that is it. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I am happy to answer them. Follow me on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you there. Like and subscribe this video if it was likable and subscribable. Peace.